And welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix Phoenix. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with William Huey Jensen, and we've got semifinal action for you here in Ixalan booster draft. Reid Duke versus Paul Dean. And a nice turn one play actually from both players here. Paul has Kumena's speaker and a free attack here. Interesting to see if Reid blocks. You would think so,
well,
but it's not for sure.
I don't know if they have deck lists, but Reid doesn't want to just randomly lose this game when Paul mulliganed to 5 to a River Herald's Boon.
That's right. But the truth is that Paul's going to play River Herald's Boon most of the time there no matter what, and he doesn't actually have one. He's got Storm Fleet Aerialist, but you know what? That's pretty darn good here on turn 2. He's already got 4 power, 2 of it in the air. And Reid's turn 3 play isn't particularly exciting considering the fact that he has multiple Hammer Skulls in this deck. Just playing a Raptor Companion's not the best.
Yeah, but Paul now has access to 3 islands in hand.
Wah, wah.
A couple creatures in play. One is blanked by an 0-3, and I mean,
mulliganing to 5 so brutal.
It is. I've seen stranger things happen than a 2-3 flyer attacking 10 times, but I wouldn't be loving my position if I were in Paul's seat.
Right. Reid does need to continue, though, to build out his board and apply pressure. He's able to do so here with the Raptor Companion first things first. And Paul's just in that position where there's really nothing great. Probably just wants to trade off given that he's not getting through the Kinjali's Collar with what he's got. And look at this. Reid just wants to draw a card, Verdant Rebirth, a card you don't actually see that often.
Yeah, it sort of draws two because the Raptor goes back to his hand.
Mm-hmm. He gets one right away, though, which could potentially get him a land drop that he needs or something along those lines. But he had the plains, plays it, and plays Raptor Companion again. So that sequence actually worked out quite well. While the misery continues here for Paul, what did he find, a Siren Stormtamer?
No, a Sailor of Means, which isn't the worst. At least it stops this Raptor Companion.
All right. So Paul's stable and attacking in the air. You have to say that he's ahead on board as it sits, but it's just the total number of resources at his disposal are so much lower. That could be a big problem for him. See what Reid has. Reid is playing green-white dinosaurs, and he really is got a lot of dinosaurs in this deck.
Yeah, he does.
Well, this could take a while here for Reid, but again, his advantages are piling up. He plays Conqueror's Galleon. That was a Dagger Tooth off the top for Paul. You can see what happens if Reid gets to fire up that Conqueror's Galleon and transform it into the Foothold. Looks like Paul's going to take a quick review here as well. But basically what it gives you is inevitability. It gives you a great place to put mana for the rest of the game. And it's almost impossible to beat as the further and further the game goes. Reid is able to fire it up if he can find one more point of power somewhere. It does cost 4 to crew that thing. Basically any creature here would do it. But, you know, Paul has really kind of put together a nice little board state here all told. Keeping Reid from attacking him and still chipping away in the air. It's not overwhelming, but it's not bad for a mold of 5. Well, I said he needed 1 power, and he found it. So the Galleon's going to get into the red zone. It's a pretty easy block here for Paul. But after combat, it is going to transform. And I think it actually exiles itself too, right?
Yeah, it does. So
yeah,
Paul's checking, because some of them, like the Compass doesn't become untapped, but the Galleon does.
That's
it gets
right.
exiled and transformed, so it comes back untapped.
Though it looks like Reid may have just tapped it here to cast that Hammer Skull.
Yeah, he did.
Land off the top for Paul. Not what he wants to see, of course.
He does get to make an attack here with 2 creatures.
Oh, he did not attack with the Ravenous Dagger Tooth.
Yeah,
there.
that's okay. It's probably better. He gets to play a bit of defense because Hammer Skull can tap one or the other. If Hammer Skull taps Sailor of Means, Ravenous Daggertooth can trade with Hammerskull. If Hammerskull taps Ravenous Daggertooth, Sailor of Means can block Raptor Companion. So
okay, so Paul just trying to keep his life total as high as possible here. What was that from Reid?
Shining Aerosaur.
Yeah, it has to be, or doesn't it? Well, Shining Aerosaur is certainly a problem.
That's
Herald.
Yeah, that's a decent draw. I mean, the aerialist can attack through these flyers, and you know, maybe if Paul gets lucky and draws River Herald's Boon, he can go 1-1 on the Daggertooth and the Herald, and somehow race through, just with synergies, race through the more powerful more powerful cards and setup from Reid.
Yeah, I mean, Reid had just finally stabilized the air, and now Paul draws Herald of Secret Streams, which is going to let that Stormfleet aerialist just attack right through the Aerosaur. So Reid's going to chip in for 4. Since he can't block that creature in the air anyway, and he actually kind of needs to find an answer for Herald.
New Horizons, that threatens a 2-turn clock. A +1/+1 counter on the Daggertooth makes it unblockable. The flyer plus the Daggertooth does 6. I mean,
wow, Paul is really scrapping together a game here.
Yeah, he's got a chance at it, in my opinion.
Wow. So Reid would love to find himself one of his pounces here.
Yeah, I mean, he could already have one. He would have had no reason to cast it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's New Horizons from Paul. And he's going to put the counter actually on Herald himself, which is only 3 power.
Still a 2-turn clock,
it is indeed,
and protects against Reid drawing a pounce, but what it might be a little bit worse against is a Bright Reprisal.
Mm. There it is. Bright Reprisal from Duke. This is a complete setback here for Paul.
Yeah, it's over. I mean,
right? I mean, that was kind of game. Yeah, wow, what a dagger there for Paul Dean. He has no luxury to play around anything on a mulligan to 5, and
he doesn't.
Put himself in a reasonable spot. But
I think maybe he could have just put the counter on the Daggertooth, because I mean, then if the Daggertooth gets Bright Reprisal, maybe he can string together something with a River Herald's Boon. I don't know. I mean, Reid would still go to 8, and then Sailor means he could only do 7 next turn with River Herald's Boon. I don't know that there's any way Paul could get himself 2 more turns. So given that, maybe he just has to accept the fact he's going to lose to Bright Reprisal and try to play around Reid drawing a pounce off the top of his library. Get that Herald out of range of all Reid's 3-power creatures.
Reid's still just going to attack for 4 in the air. Does he have another one? Sort of. He's got a Pterodon Knight now, which is a 3/3 with flying, which is another good blocker here for the aerialist. What did Paul find?
He found Run Aground.
Run Aground?
Too little, too late, I think.
So he can Run Aground the Pterodon Knight, get in for 2, but then it's just slipping away from him quickly.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a judge announcement. All midship judges not currently engaged on a task, please report to the red Chandra stage.
Got to do something, I guess. It's really hard to win a game of Magic when you start with 5 cards.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's what Paul's going to do. He's going to put Pterodon Knight back on top of the library. Uh-oh, what does Reid have pounce here? He does. And he's just going to take down the only viable threat left for Paul. And, I mean, this is just the problem, right, is that Reid just has more resources available to him.
Yeah, and, I mean, that land, Conqueror's Foothold, I think it's called,
Conqueror's
now that it's
Foothold.
flipped.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Even parity is just a disaster for Paul.
Right, and he's behind now.
Right.
He's going to take another hit. In fact, he might take a bigger hit this time. Nope, still just 4. But then we're going to see Pterodon Knight hit the battlefield. I lied.
Yeah, Reid
just wants to use the Conqueror's Foothold to get something
the foothold
back.
to get pounced back.
Yep, exactly. And he can just chew up Paul Dean's board here. Yeah, there's Jade Guardian, but with that Herald of Secret Streams gone, it's really not doing much here. Normally, it's one of the best answers for a Territorial Hammerskull, but that just hasn't been a factor here.
Yeah, I mean, Paul does have a copy of One with the Wind in his deck.
Okay. His life total's dropping, though, even on his own turn. It's down to 8.
Yeah. Going to be tough.
Looks like Reid's content with a 2-turn clock here. Oh, actually, he's reconsidering. Remember, he has Pounce plus the card that he drew for the turn, plus something else.
He's just thinking, do I really want to leave this 1-3 back? I mean, one way I could lose this game is if Paul had something like One with the Wind plus Crasher Ramparts, but he has a Pterodon Knight too, so I think there's no risk of him just randomly dying before he gets another turn.
Okay, yeah, he's going to play out the Pterodon Knight. The other card was a Plains from his hand, a land off the top for Paul Dean, and this one's going to go to Reid Duke here. Paul, truly valiant effort there, given that he had mulliganed to 5 cards. Really did, you know, I'm assuming that Reid had to have a little bit of fear there at some point. He's going to try to increase the clock here as Paul by just attacking with the Dagger Tooth. Reid could just take it, or he could just block. Oh, I like that block. Kinjali's Collar isn't going to do any damage, meaning that just the creatures in the air are plenty enough to kill him. Reid's going to draw a card with Conqueror's Galleon, just to be precise. But with 1 card left in hand for Paul Dean, the way is clear.
You a math guy, Suddy? Reid has, what, 1 forest and 7 plains in play, and his deck has 8 and 8. What are the odds of that?
Wow, I don't know, but not very high.
Yeah.
And that's going to do it. Reid Duke takes down game number 1, able to press that resource advantage over Paul Dean after a tough mulligan from him. And
I have to say, I think that game was a little bit closer at parts than it may have seemed. I think there, you know, oftentimes when you mulligan to 5, you play a game, you just can't win.
Yeah.
There gets to be a point, like on turn 3, you're literally incapable of winning. But I think there were a couple turns there where if you know, if Paul had been able to string the perfect cards together, he might have had a shot.
It got close. If I'm in Reid's seat, I'm thinking, wait a minute, didn't you mulligan to 5? Aren't I supposed to win this easily?
You know, maybe if the Aerialist got in 1 more hit and the Jade Guardian got drawn the turn before the Herald of Secret Streams, and maybe if a River Herald's Boon made its way in there.
Yep.
Something like that. So that's why you play out the games.
Yeah, the big play, of course, was that Bright Reprisal, though, from Reid, taking out, you know, the Herald of Secret Streams, because that really took away the ability for Paul to get in through for damage, even with his flyer.
Yeah, and I mean, it turned out that Reid pounced on the following turn, so he probably also had access to that.
Yeah. So players are going to consult their sideboards now here, Huey, and Reid did get a chance to see quite a bit of the deck. I don't know if they have deck lists here. I don't actually see a deck list in front of them. Sometimes they'll have those. Take a look at Paul. Paul comes from Toronto. Reid, of course, is from Sugarloaf, New York.
Have you ever made it out there?
No, I haven't. He invited me. He said you should come out sometime, but I haven't actually gone.
I recommend it.
It sounds nice.
It's awesome. It feels like you're walking through, to me, I always tell people this, it feels like you're sort of walking through, what do you want to call it, like a village that you would think about when you're playing D&D. Like you walk down the street.
Like the starting
like
village?
You get a tour, and it's like, oh, there's the leather worker, there's the potter, there's the tavern.
Is there a smith?
There probably is.
That's really funny.
Yeah. The jeweler.
Which was Reid for a while, right?
He was an apprentice jeweler.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. It's a cool place, though. Really good people there.
Yeah, Paul's from Toronto. He's an accountant up there.
I like Toronto, too.
He went 8-1 in sealed.
I don't have any cool Toronto D&D stories, though.
No. 3-0'd both of his drafts.
That always feels good when you show up to a tournament. Don't lose any matches booster draft.
When asked about his story, what people should know about him, he said, "My life is dope and I do dope things."
Cool.
It's a Kanye quote.
I actually knew that somehow.
Though Kanye didn't say things in the original quote.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
But
I think he said stuff.
He did not say stuff either. Yeah, but he mentioned this too. He says, "What does top 8 mean to you?" He says, "I've always been pretty bad at limited, but recently joined Team Genesis and Revelation and tried very hard to learn and improve, so it's very gratifying to see that effort materialize." Revelation's a new one. All right, looks like sideboarding has finished, and players are now examining openers. Let's hope we get a nice one here. Can Paul keep this opening 7 this time? Ultimately could not overcome a mulligan to 5 the prior game. Uh-oh. This looks like a tough decision for Paul.
What gave it away?
This is not the snap keep. Though he has kept. And it looks like both players have. So we're underway here in game number 2. Can Jolly's colors start things off for Duke?
Paul's got all his colors, that's for sure.
He's playing teamer colors here.
It looks like he's got red for Captivating Crew and Charging Monstrosaur. Pretty good cards.
Yeah, he has a Charging Monstrosaur in hand. Again, Reid Duke with the turn 1 Kinjali's collar. This time, no follow-up whatsoever. Last time it was a rather unimpressive follow-up with the Raptor Companion.
Yeah.
Right, here's Jungle Delver for Paul Dean. So, not particularly potent at this point, but if this game does go on for a while, it can be a problem. Ooh, that's a blowout. Ixalan Archer is going to target the Jungle Delver, and it's going to fight it. And
I would feel so unlucky if I was Paul. Like, I really have to draw this on my 3rd turn.
That is so brutal. Man. And now Paul looks down at New Horizons with no target for it. He's going to play his land. He also can play Charging Monstrosaur next turn anyway, so he's just going to hold it.
Sure.
I think he figures, I've got all my colors, I've got enough mana, I may as well get the +1/+1 counter out of the thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's already a 5/5, but one of the most effective ways a white-green deck has to fight it is to double block it, so.
Yeah, even one counter can matter. So Reid's going to go for a New Horizons of his own, put the counter on the Ixalan Archer, and get into the red zone.
Might look to Paul like Reid doesn't have another land. Usually, you know, if somebody were going to play New Horizons with a 4th land in hand, he would have played a land untapped so he could represent something for 2 mana. So making Reid draw an Ixalan Archer when you know about it's not so bad, and Paul's about to add to the board with the Charging Monstrosaur. I don't think Reid has any good 4-mana answers, Pious Interdiction, Ixalan's Binding, anything like that.
No, we didn't see him get any of those in the draft, did we? His cards are more like Pounce, and that is a tough sell with Charging Monstrosaur.
Yeah, Charging Monstrosaur, the premium uncommon in the set, just way overpowered. It's like a reality smasher, but much easier to cast.
Right. So we could easily see this charging Monstrosaur just carry Paul Dean to victory here in game number 2 if Reid can't get back on the board and quickly. Here he casts a Shining Aerosaur, which is a fine addition, but again, does not block the charging Monstrosaur.
Right, and of course we know, I guess he doesn't have it anymore. I was thinking he still had Run Aground, but he cast it on that Archer.
Yeah, he cast it on the Archer to, I think with the hope of preventing Reid from drawing mana since he missed his land drop. And it did work, except for that he's got 4, mana worth, and then on top of it, the Kinjali's Collar, so he can really cast most of his stuff. But the feeling that you get when you face down a charging Monstrosaur is always the same, which is that at some point, you just have to take a deep breath, throw 2 or 3 creatures in front of it, and cross your fingers that they don't have a trick.
Yep, definitely. And Paul has some good cards in this matchup. Captivating Crew is really good against white-green, charging Monstrosaur. And in his hand, which he'll be able to play next turn, Verdant Sun's Avatar.
Nice big 5/5 to follow up all this other threats. The good news for Reid is that the Shining Aerosaur can do a good job holding back that Jade Guardian, but he still has this charging Monstrosaur problem.
Yeah, and it's no small problem.
Right. 6/6 with Trample as it sits. We know that one of the cards in Reid's hand is that Atsakan Archer. It doesn't do much here. Okay, so he's got a second copy of Shining Aerosaur, and that actually matches up quite nicely against the charging Monstrosaur here. With a double block and a hold of the breath, Reid could get rid of it.
Well, he'll definitely double block. He's effectively obligated to.
Right.
The only way maybe he wouldn't double block is if Jade Guardian also attacked, but I think there's not really enough upside there. I expect Paul not to bother attacking because he knows, if Reid were at 20, he'd be more likely to attack, I think. Just because I don't think Reid would be obligated to double block with Paul's mana up at 20. But here, Reid is basically handcuffed into double blocking it, and it's a trade Paul doesn't want to make.
So he does stabilize, does Reid Duke, though Paul Dean's addition to the board, that Verdant Sun Avatar, is just another big body.
Yeah, I don't know that Reid's fully stabilized. I mean, in some sense, yeah, he has a couple blockers, but, an alpha attack with a bunch of giant creatures can make things considerably difficult sometimes.
Yeah, but Paul's going to need help because he just does not have great attacks here.
I wonder what that card was. Is that another? Oh, a Raptor Companion.
It's a companion, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, did Paul just draw Captivating Crew?
Yeah, and I mean, he has enough mana to play Captivating Crew, take an Aerosaur, an Alpha, and, I mean, Reid's only left with 7 power worth of creatures.
So he has another land in his hand?
Yeah, his hand is a land in a Captivating Crew, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, then, that is going to make life very difficult for Reid Duke. Reid has no mana available. I assume he could survive that attack, but barely.
Yeah, maybe. Trying to figure out, it's pretty complicated.
Yeah, so is Paul.
So if he takes an Aerosaur and he theoretically attacks with everything, Aerosaur eats Jade Guardian, 1/4 blocks 3/4. Yeah, it might not be worth it this turn. It might simply be worth taking a Raptor Companion and attacking or something like that.
Just sending it in.
Yeah.
To its likely doom. He does gain 3 life off of the deal too, though currently not relevant. So yeah, he's just going for it. He's going to take a Shining Aerosaur here. And we expect a very big attack here.
So let's see. Reach creature blocks Aerosaur. Aerosaur blocks Jade Guardian.
Can he survive? He can chump block. Yeah, he can easily survive. He can put the Kinjali's Collar in front of the Verdant Sun's Avatar and just take 6.
He can survive, but he's in trouble.
Oh, yeah, big trouble. And that is not the face of somebody who's confidently stabilized the board.
No. One problem is, Captivating Crew is going to run rampant on this game. I mean, Reid basically, if he doesn't have Pounce in his hand, has to play as if he knows his top card is a Pounce, in my opinion.
Okay, it's that desperate.
Yeah.
Because he can steal 2 things.
Right, it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Reid's going to take less than 6 damage here, and I think he's just going to choose a creature to throw in front of Verdant Sun's Avatar and say take 6 damage down to 3. So stealing 2 things, creatures aren't going to get it done.
No, No, he's going to need a removal spell, and that actually is the weakness of Reid's deck. He ended up with 2 copies of Pounce, but we saw none of the white removal spells that you'd expect to see in a deck like this.
Yeah, although those cards are not particularly, Pious Interdiction specifically is not particularly effective against Captivating Crew.
No, it's really not. He does have that Bright Reprisal as well, but another card that's not going to get the job done here. Okay, so he's going to chump block with the Kinjali's Collar, making sure it doesn't have trample real quick, and say, okay, I'll take 6. I go to 3. You lose your Jade Guardian, and Reid does not lose his Shining Aerosaur.
Yeah, but he did lose the Kinjali's Collar.
He did. So it's Pounce or bust here.
Yeah, and even Pounce, I mean...
Still just a 2-for-1 against Reid, right?
Right, but...
Well, let's see if he's got one. Paul Dean at a comfortable 28 life, so there will be no racing situation here. Reid's at 3 and facing down. Well, that is a powerful board right there.
Yeah,
2 rares and a premium uncommon doing work on Reid here.
Looks like a Pounce to me.
Yeah, it does feel like it. If that's the Pounce target, he may as well get in for 3. Okay, he has the Pounce. That is stage 1, though. He's not out of the woods yet, is he?
Well, now I think he's actually stabilized. I mean,
yeah.
If Paul doesn't draw anything, like his attacks again aren't great. Like he gets to trade Charging Monstrosaur for 1 Shining Aerosaur and 1 other creature, because Reid does have to put a creature also in front of
Verdant Sun's
Avatar.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Still, it would cost Paul Dean dearly. And Reid with that follow-up Raptor Companion just as a backup blocker as well. Paul Dean, well, that forest still just says tap for mana, my friend. So
another thing very important to consider is it's really good for Paul to have a creature in play with the +1/+1 counter on it that has power greater than Reid's life total.
Great point.
That gives him an out to
Herald of Secret
Streams to just win the game at any moment. So he really doesn't want to be trading off the Monstrosaur.
And he doesn't. He passes the turn back. Reid has a lot of work to do, though. He's dodged a bullet with the draw step from Paul Dean here, but there's a lot of cards that Paul can find.
Yeah, and I mean,
that'll win him the game on the spot.
Paul has a lot of time. Every creature he draws gains him life.
Yep.
Reid is so far on the back foot at this moment that, like, I don't know. It's just rough. Like, if I'm Reid, I'm attacking here. I totally agree with this play. He needs to just hope Paul doesn't draw anything for a few turns, because he knows about the Herald of Secret Streams. He knows he's gonna. One thing goes wrong, he's gonna lose, and he just needs to close the door as quickly as possible.
That was Herald of Secret Streams right off the top of the library for Paul Dean, and that means Charging Monstrosaur is unblockable now, and lethal, and Reid's tapped out. So that is going to be game number 2 going to Paul Dean, as he finds exactly what he needs right off the top of the library. Paul says, "I was thinking of a card." That was it. All right, well, game 3 it is. 2 pretty one-sided games there. Similar in playout as well, where Paul was way ahead, and then it looked like a little bit back towards Reid, and then boom, Paul shut the door. That's what happened in the first game, just in the other direction.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's cards are a lot better, and it showed in that game.
Yep, it did. Yeah, Charging Monstrosaur, man.
Captivating Crew.
It's a tough matchup for Reid as well. Again, the Pounce and those type of cards, he was facing down a 6/6 and a 5/5. Those are hard to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Captivating Crew did serious work for Paul Dean that game, too. Another thing that stood out to me, actually, in both games was that both games Reid had the Kinjali's Collar on turn 1, and on turn 2 didn't use it, right? He either cast a Raptor Companion or nothing in this last game. You expect him to start casting those Hammer Skulls.
Yeah, he hasn't drawn those, but I will say in that game he only ever had access to 4 mana, and he had 2 Shining Aerosaurs in play. So the Collar did its job there. I think we talked about it earlier today. I think that's one of the best cards to make cheaper is Shining Aerosaur.
Yeah.
Because of the evasion and the high toughness. But I agree that, Reid's deck is capable of a bit more aggressive draws than it's had in these games, but also the deck can go long. If I were Reid and I were playing this match, I think I would do everything I could, especially in this game on the play, to make my deck as aggressive as possible, because I don't want to play a long game against Verdant Sun's Avatar.
Agreed.
And I don't want to play a long game against Captivating Crew.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Reid pulled that Awakening Sun's Avatar out as well. I mean, look at the two big threats he just faced here.
Kills Captivating Crew.
It does.
I mean,
doesn't kill Monstrosaur, although it's going to be bigger than Monstrosaur in most scenarios, and also the Verdant Sun's Avatar.
yeah, but it kills the Herald too. I don't know.
True, true.
Reid's deck doesn't have a ton of answers to these cards.
He may just need it as a necessary evil.
Well,
because, I mean, if you're trying to be as fast as possible, you certainly don't want to see that in your opening.
no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Need and want are different, you know.
Sure.
I'm just saying there are definitely good sides to the Awakening Sun's Avatar.
For sure. Good blocker. 7/7s do that. I see Anton Janssen walking away from his match. Maybe we'll get an update on that one. Working on getting that update for you. In the meantime, players are getting shuffled up and ready to go. Looks like Sean Miller defeated the Hall of Famer Anton Janssen. Sean is from Woodland Hills, though Sean didn't actually say where that was. Perhaps local?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where's Woodland Hills? I'm going to look it up. How many Woodland Hills do you think there are in the United States? That's another question.
7.
Woodland Hills, Los Angeles is the first thing that came up. Well, we're just going to assume he's from LA then. So he's your first finalist, Sean Miller. This is kind of cool. We'll talk more about him when we get there, but...
Looks like Reid kept and Paul took a mulligan.
Oh, no. Not another one. Look at Paul. He's taking it in stride, but he's got to be frustrating. Sean says he's getting his degree in graphic design. And last week he finished 13th at the Classic Tetris World Championships.
That is awesome.
Pure gamer here for Sean.
That is awesome.
Love it. He says, when asked what does his top 8 mean to you, he said, a lot. It's my first time making the Pro Tour, and playing limited online has really helped my game.
Yeah, it does help to play a lot online.
That is the way to do it, yeah.
Go
ahead.
I was going to just say, once I played in a Magic tournament, and I got paired against a former Scrabble. Like he finished, I can't remember the exact place, but it was either like first or tops, 10 or something in U.S. Scrabble Nationals. That was kind of cool.
That's sweet. But you haven't played against a Classic Tetris World Championship competitor, or at least a top 13 competitor, right? Ooh, he kept 6. And he's going to put that card back on top of his library. So Reid looks like he does not have the Kinjali's Collar this time. He's just leading off with a Forest. He draws Pounce for the turn, though. That's a key piece of the puzzle sometimes, though. Skyblade of the Legion, not a particularly blistering start here for Reid. We're going to see a Territorial Hammerskull out of this guy?
Does Reid have any of those?
I think he's got 2. There's one. About time. We saw him in the quarterfinal play 2 of them, and you mentioned it while we were watching the draft. When you get 2 of those things on the battlefield, it's just about game over.
Sure is. And you know what? Paul finally drew his Forest, but he also has a draw where he can play turn 4 Territorial Hammerskull. Or turn 4 Rampaging Monstrosaur.
Oh,
Charging Monstrosaur. Sorry.
Charging oh, my goodness. It's going to do all of those things. Reid has a clean attack this turn, but could be taking a mighty sting on the backswing. There's a Pterodon Knight, though, so the race could well and truly be on here, Huey.
Yeah, I mean, it looks that way, right?
Yeah, for those of you watching at home, this is not sandwich time. You got to sit down, put on your seatbelt, because this one could be over very quickly.
For what it's worth, Paul is not obligated to play that Monstrosaur. There's definitely an argument for
I've never considered the alternative when you're faced with that choice.
I think he could play both a Shapers of Nature and Stormfleet Aerialist.
And it would also have Reid?
If he wants.
Interesting. Nope.
Nope.
He's going for the Monstrosaur. He's going to actually leave Sailor of Means back, though.
Well, attacking doesn't do anything because of the Pterodon Knight.
It's just going to block anyway, so it's irrelevant.
The Hammer Skull's going to tap it.
That's right. So Pterodon Knight does have flying right now. And this is Reid attacking for 6. And boy, these hits are going to come fast and furious here. Reid keeps adding to the board. Oh, he's got the other Hammer Skull. That's going to make blocking almost impossible for Paul.
Yeah.
He's really kind of all in on this charging Monstrosaur at this point.
Yep. Not a bad card to be all in on.
I mean, it's one of the better cards in the set. We have 2 dinosaurs, kind of best-in-class dinosaurs, right? Like best uncommon, charging Monstrosaur, best common, Hammer Skull.
Yep.
But Reid has 2 of them.
What's the best rare? Burning Sun's Avatar?
No.
Best rare dinosaur?
Oh, I just meant best common and best
uncommon. Fair enough.
Yeah, just straight up.
Hostage taker.
I'm on
opponent's
hostage.
Burning Sun's Avatar.
Oh, that's the best rare. Like that. So Paul, every decision super important from him from now on.
Yeah, Paul had to think because, I mean, he does want the raid, but theoretically.
Is Reid going to snap this off with the trigger?
What?
He does have pounce, does he not? I mean, I don't know if it's worth it, but he.
I don't think it works.
Oh, it comes in with the counter
on it? I think it enters with a +1/+1 counter.
Ah,
I think
my
that's
bad. I think you're right.
What Reid looked at.
All right, well, he does not have the opportunity then.
Yeah, he doesn't need to, though. He can just fight the Pterodon Knight at it.
Sure.
It's dicey, though. I mean, man. So if Reid were
to as close as they get.
So you figure, I mean, if we look at the board, right? Mm-hmm. If Reid pounces this 2/3, he can attack unimpeded for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Putting Paul down to 2, but he leaves himself open.
Right. Paul has 9 power in creatures. Reid's at 10.
God.
I mean,
this is so close.
I would guess.
I mean, it could come down to a blocker, one blocker from Reid, one spell.
Yeah, I think Reid will do 7 here.
He'll leave back the Legion, the Skyblade of the Legion.
Yeah, just to throw in front of something, or just who knows what
soak up 3.
Who knows when you'll need a 1/3 flyer, you know?
Sure. And, of course, a lot of this depends on what Reid has left in his hand. He has 2 cards. A decent amount of mana. Something like a Shining Aerosaur. No, he just passes a turn. This could be Bright Reprisal, though,
it could
for
be.
Duke.
If Reid has Bright Reprisal in his hand right now, I really like his chances. I mean, I think he's ahead anyway, so.
Sure.
And, I mean, now we can see it's over. I mean, unless somehow Paul convinces Reid to block with that, the Ravenous Daggertooth, the Pterodon Knight alone is going to finish it.
Yep. It is a lethal flying attack. Take a look at Bright Reprisal. We don't know if he has it. Reid tends to hold his cards pretty close. You don't
Place
get a good
his
view.
cards close to the vest.
He does. I actually asked him about it once. He said, yeah, I do that on purpose. He's like, I just don't want to show my opponent a card on accident, you know? You just get a little loosey-goosey with how you hold it, and, you know, they see a card.
It's happened to me so many times where I've seen cards in my opponent's hand.
Because you're so much taller?
No, because people just don't protect their cards.
Yeah, but it's also because you're taller.
Okay, if you say so. But people hold their cards sideways sometimes.
Yeah. Well, Paul's just going to have to attack with Charging Monstrosaur. Oh, Reid's going for mana?
Reid is thinking about what could happen. Does he want to block first? Does he want to cast it first and then potentially block in the case of something like Dive Down? What can possibly happen to make me not do lethal damage? Do I want to block? I mean, you know, 1 Hammer Skull plus the Skyblade of the Legion is lethal. Mm-hmm. If somehow Paul has a way to remove Pterodon Knight and one of the Hammer Skulls.
He took it.
Sure did.
And that Sailor of Means here for Paul means that he's got 3 mana and a treasure. Make that 4 mana and a treasure.
And he's trying to bluff something, but ultimately...
Reid just has to go for it, right?
All he has to do is turn his Pterodon Knight sideways, and that's it.
He does not have lethal with his other 3 creatures here.
He actually does. But I'm saying as long as he turns...
Yeah, as long as that's part of the equation
right.
and the Ravenous Daggertooth gets tapped.
That doesn't even matter.
That doesn't even matter. All right, well.
As the
Reid's
cards
looking.
stand, I mean, he will
Absolutely.
tap it. But
He's looking at it. He's attacking with everything. Paul just has to sit here and let Reid decide his fate. He's double checking. He's triple checking. Reid is a very careful player. Takes a quick look at his life totals. He's still got his hands up. He's starting to target, though, and that means that this attack is happening. And there's nothing that Paul Dean can do. And that's going to do it. Paul Dean extends the hand, and Reid Duke continues to the finals. Reid is on a rampage here, and this is a potentially historical rampage as far as GPs go. If he wins this next match, that would, of course, give him the trophy here in Phoenix, and he would be tied for the all-time number of wins at Grand Prix. And that's with Shuhei and Kai.
And I think also Yuya.
And Yuya.
Yeah, pretty good company.
That's pretty sweet.
This will be Reid's 7th if he wins.
Yeah, his 7th Grand Prix winning trophy if he's able to take that down. All right, well, the players are going to take just a short break to get resettled, get sat down, and once they're ready to go, we're going to be right there with them. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, though, we're going to have the finals from Phoenix. Don't you go anywhere.